Hey YouTube, Ed here with Jack of All Trades. So we're in episode 6 of the Go-Kart project, and I'm thinking this will probably be the final episode. Before we get into that, please go down and hit that like and subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down. Give me some comments. What would you have any questions on? What would you like to see me do differently? Are there any projects that you'd like to see me attempt and put on the channel? Anything you want. Any questions you got about anything I did or where I got parts for this thing? Please feel free to hit me in the comments and I will answer them as quickly as possible. With that, what we've got to do now is we've got to disassemble the machine. There's a couple of tweaky things that I have to do here and there. Then we got to paint it. I'm actually going to paint this thing with Herculiner bed liner. I figure that'll be a really cool look. I've got the bed liner kit here, which is sitting unused. I might as well use it on something. And I think it'll give it a really neat look on this thing. I'm also going to put on some aluminum diamond plate side panels with some excess aluminum diamond plate that I've got laying around, and just kind of dress this thing up a little bit. We got to install a floor pan, and then we have to reassemble it. And once it's reassembled, we'll do a test run. We'll fine-tune the alignment on the front suspension or the front axle, make sure the rear axle's all lined up, make sure the brakes work good, and this project will be a wrap. So the next thing we got to do is let's get this machine disassembled so we can get it prepped up and ready for paint. So we got her painted. Just so you guys know, I shut the exhaust fan off. This stuff, this Herculiner has got a wicked bad smell to it. So make sure you're doing it in an area that's ventilated with a fan, or you may end up talking and acting funny because of the fumes. But at any rate, sorry, bad humor there. At any rate, it's all Herculinered now. Now I'm going to leave it sit for a few days. I've actually got to go on the road for work, so now we got to let her sit for a few days and let it cure up good. Some things to note: make sure that you keep the threads clean on your mounting, and make sure that surfaces that have a bearing in them, such as like for my steering post, you make sure you keep any paint and Herculiner out of that. As you can see, the edges, I didn't get any Herculiner on the edges because I'm trying to keep it out of there. What I'll do is I'll stuff that with paper towel, and I'll just shoot it with a little bit of spray paint. I just want to keep those surfaces nice and clean for the bearings. Other than that, this is a cool look. I'm liking this. This is going to look really, really neat. I'm glad I went this way. And like I said, I had the Herculiner kit laying around. I figured I might as well use it. All right, guys and gals, the frame is painted and it is ready for assembly. So I guess the next step is we got to start putting this thing together. So I'm going to flip it over. We're going to install the floor pan and then get that riveted into place. And then we're going to go ahead and start putting this thing back together. And hopefully it won't take too long, and we'll get this thing up and driving and running, and we'll give her a test drive, get everything aligned, and this project will be done. We've got this breather hose right here that we took off, and since we're not using the factory breather box anymore, the question is, what do we do with this hose? You can't plug this off because this is crankcase ventilation, and if you plug it off, you'll build excessive pressure inside your engine, which you don't want to do. You can't leave it open because it'll get dirt in it, and it could eventually ruin the engine. So the question is, what do you do with it? I found at AutoZone Spectre breather filter. They have a gray one and they have a blue one. It's part number 3996. And I went to my local home center and I got a 3/8 by 1/4 inch plastic fitting. And I'm going to mount this right onto this bracket. I'm going to keep this whole throttle linkage system here. And so this plate is here and it's really not doing anything. So I'm just going to drill this hole right here big enough to accept this, and use this 90-degree to install this breather filter. And there we go. We have a breather installed. Now, a couple of things that you need to take note of when you're installing this. It's pretty cramped in here, and you need to make sure that nothing is interfering with your throttle linkage here, because the last thing you want to do is have this stick wide open. As you can see, I've got it moving pretty free. That's why I don't have this down any further than what it is, because it would get in the way of the throttle linkage. And it's fine. It can just sit there and it can wiggle around a little bit. That's not going to hurt anything. But yeah, we've got to make sure that your throttle isn't interrupted with. So there I have my breather on there. It's up. It's out of the way. And I might even take a zip tie. In fact, I think I will. I think I'll just take a zip tie and I'll zip tie this up and out of the way so that it's sure not to interfere with anything, and we should be good to go. All right, so we've got the go-kart basically put together. I didn't video it, but I did take it out for a test drive, and I noticed a couple of things that I need to tweak to make this thing right. And so let's turn the camera around and I'll show you what I need to tweak on it to get this project final and complete. All right, the very first thing that I'm going to talk about here is caster. I've got too much caster in these wheels. Now, to explain what caster is, you can see this bracket right here, which is the bracket that holds the spindle in. You can see that the bracket is leaning backwards, and that's on purpose. That's by design. That's called caster. And what caster does is when you turn the wheel to make a corner, and when you let go of the steering wheel and you're moving forward, caster will kind of automatically bring the wheel back to center. And that's, like I said, that's by design. But the problem with this is I've got too much caster in here. I've got 12 degrees of caster in here, which is way, way too much. So what I need to do is I actually need to take some caster out. Now, unfortunately, what that means is I've got to cut that bracket off, and I got to make it more straight up and down. And I'm only going to put about 2 or 3 degrees, maybe 4 degrees of caster in there, just to kind of help it turn the wheel straight again. but make it so it doesn't dig quite so much. I'm also going to do these spindle brackets. And the thing about these spindle brackets is they're much, much longer than the ones that are on there now. And then there's a spring that goes in here, and it kind of gives you a bit of a rudimentary suspension, if you will, because then the spindle goes in here, and then as you push pressure on the spring, it gives you a little bit of suspension. So these brackets are going to do two things. One, I'm going to weld them on more straight up and down to take some caster out, and two, they're going to provide just a little bit of suspension on the front end. Not so much to smooth the ride out, but more when you're turning the wheel to keep good ground contact with the wheels so you don't lose any ground contact with your front tires. All right, second thing I got to tweak. My brakes are a little mushy. And here's why. I've got a disc brake system on here, and I've bled the brakes, but you can see right here on the brake caliper, here's the piston, okay? And this is the tunnel or the chamber that feeds the piston brake fluid. And you can see here it's got a corresponding chamber or tunnel on the other side which goes to the bleeder. Now, when the brake caliper is sitting like it is and you bleed it, the air goes out of this bleeder, and you can see here the piston kind of goes up. There's a pocket of air in this piston, and I need to get that pocket of air out there and out of there. And I could bleed the brakes all day long and twice on Tuesday, and the air is never going to come out of there because it's up above this chamber. So what I'm going to have to do is I can do one of two things. I can take the brake caliper off and I can turn it so the brake bleeder is straight up facing the sky, and then bleed the brakes. The problem with that is when you bleed the brakes, what'll happen is when you step on the pedal, it's going to close the piston, and then you got to try and push that piston back apart again to get it back onto the brake rotor. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the go-kart basically do a wheelie, stand it on its back end, and bleed the brake system that way. That way I don't have to take the caliper off. But the other thing I've got to do is I've got to change this sprocket. I've got a 48 tooth sprocket on there right now, and though it does move, and it seems to move just fine, it does not have a lot of low end torque. It's got a lot of top end. Even with the governor installed, the doggone go-kart's doing about 30 miles an hour. But there's not a whole lot of low-end torque. I cannot spin the tires at all. Even on dirt, I can't get the tires to spin. So that tells me I need a little bit bigger sprocket in here to reduce the gear ratio. Especially with these big old knobby tires on here, that sprocket is just way too small and it needs to be enlarged. So I actually ordered a 60 tooth sprocket, and I'm going to swap that sprocket out, that 48 tooth, for a 60 tooth. I've got enough room in there, and that should give me a much shorter gear ratio, and that should give me a little bit of tire spinning ability, or a little more low end torque. It'll be easier on the belt drive. That way I'm sure I'm not going to burn up any belts, and it'll just be a little more torquey. Now what is going to happen is I'm going to lose some top end because that sprocket will get bigger. But what I have not done is I have not removed the governor on this. So when I remove the governor, I'll gain some of that top end back. So those are the three things I have to do. I have to take some caster out of the front tires. I got to bleed the brake system so I can get all of the air out of it. And I got to change that sprocket. And when that's done, this go-kart should be finished. Well, we got her all done. It's all complete. It's all finished. Let's do a quick walk around and show you exactly what's all been done to this kart. All right, so you'll remember that this started off as a farm or a barn find. The frame was in exceedingly poor condition. So as the videos previously were, I completely stripped out the frame, got it right down to nothing but the frame, re-welded all the welds. I added a new floor pan, I added a new front axle, new front tires. We've got rack and pinion steering up front. We've got a new seat, new steering wheel. The only thing I really used on this that's original from the old frame are the tires in the back and the frame itself. We've got a new Briggs & Stratton 7.5 horse single cylinder engine. I took the air box off and I put the element style filter on there. I got that from Go Power Sports. I added a breather filter, which I got from my local auto parts store. Put a little bit of diamond plate on here for the new floor pan and for just some decoration on the back roll bar. And of course on the nose of the go-kart. Front spindle brackets are spring style suspension spindle brackets. Both right and left sides. I have got disc brakes in the back. Hydraulic disc brakes in the back. They're not even mechanical. I've got a number 41 gear sprocket in the back. Use pillow block bearings for the axle bearings. I'm on a 1-inch live axle. I've got a Amazon purchased torque converter. I put the Go Power Sports sticker on there because they sent me a sticker, so I stuck it on there. But I actually bought that from Amazon, to be completely fair. The header I also bought off of Amazon along with the muffler. In fact, a lot of this cart came from Amazon. And it's all done. It's all set. It's all ready to go. Let's take it out in the yard and let's drive it around just a little bit. And there it is. The project's complete. The cart is done. We're driving it. We're using it. It's safe and structurally sound, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun with it. So thanks to everyone who stuck with during the series. Just so you remember what it looked like when I first got it, you can see it was in pretty rough condition. Certainly wasn't in any condition to be driven or ridden safely. But now we've got it structurally sound. It's in good shape. I've got all new parts on it, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this thing. So thanks to all those who have joined the channel and subscribed and commented. And if you're new to the channel and you like the content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Ding that notification bell so you get informed anytime a new video comes out. And I would very much appreciate it. So this is Ed with Jack of All Trades. We'll see you on the next video.